Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to tell you about every single unread book that I own, and you're gonna help me do a little unhaul. So once again, welcome back. My setup is a little weird because I do have a book cart with some of my unread books in my bedroom, so I'm gonna go through those really quick, and then we will go out to the living room where I can show you the rest of them. So I have a pretty small apartment. It's just me and my husband, and we live right in Center City in Philadelphia, so we don't have a ton of space, and I'm always trying to make sure that I'm actually reading the books that I buy, but I'm not always doing a great job at it. So right now, I just kind of want to go through every book that I own and decide if I'm really going to read this. So please, I apologize for the little bits of mess here and there because I'm kind of just sticking books wherever I can most of the time. I only have 4 bookshelves out in the living room, and then I have my little book cart right here, so it can be a little chaotic. So let's just start going through them. So the first book that I have is A Light in the Forest. I don't really know much about this, and I honestly don't think I will ever read it, so we will put this in the get rid of pile. The Book of Accidents by Chuck Wendig. I got this as a gift, I think, and I really am interested in reading it, but it's so big that I don't know if I'm gonna read this copy. This is a big, huge hardcover. It's over 500 pages, and I just don't think that this is something that I will read in this format. I will probably either find a paperback or an ebook or an audiobook, but this is not going to happen. So I might hold on to it just for the sake of having this beautiful hardcover when I'm finished. But this is one that I've had for quite some time and haven't read, but we're going to keep it for now. Next is Winter Girls by Laurie Halse Anderson. This is one that I haven't really known much about. I do think I put this on my Amazon wishlist and someone bought it for me. I loved her book Speak when I was a kid, well, a teenager, and I read it 2 years ago just to see if it held up, and I still really like it. So this is one that I am still going to hang on to. Hopefully I will actually read it. I'm going to come back to this video maybe next year and see how well I did with getting through the books that I had on my TBR. Next, I have For the Love of Friends by Sarah Goodman Confino. I did read another book of hers that I got from the publisher, and I did enjoy it, but I just don't know if this is unique enough that it's going to be something that I'm going to choose to pick up over, say, something else. So I think this one I'm going to get rid of. Next, we have Harlan Coben, Stay Close. This looks really good. I do like Harlan Coben's books. I'm clearly got this at a discount, so that is why I held on to it. But I think I will keep this because I really do like his books, and sometimes when I know I just want a good mystery, a good thriller, I know his books are reliable to pick up and I'm gonna enjoy it. So I'm gonna keep this one. The Honey Don't List is the next one on my shelf by Christina Lauren. I've had this for 3 years, and I don't think I'm ever gonna read it because I know it has a lot of mixed reviews, and I just think there's a lot better romances out there, so I'm gonna say goodbye to her. I'm just gonna take a stack of these because this is kind of weird. The Utility of Boredom. This is a book about baseball. This is essays about baseball, and I think my husband got this for me for Christmas one year. It is an indie published book, but I think I want to keep it because this is definitely going into baseball season. I feel like I always want to read more baseball books, so I'm gonna keep this one. Unorthodox, The Scandalous Rejection of My Hasidic Roots. I think that I would like this one too. It's kind of about escaping, from the Hasidic Judaism cult, religious sect. So I do like books about this and memoirs. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I think I bought this 2 years ago when I went to the Tenement Museum in New York City. So I'm gonna keep it. Okay, this is The Great Believers. I definitely do want to read this. This is my sister's copy, and I've had it for ages, but it looks really good, and I know it's gotten nothing but rave reviews. I just have to actually sit down and do it. I mean, it's won awards, so it's obviously very good, and I know she just had another book come out this month that I would like to read too, so maybe I'll do them back to back. The next one is Dear Martin. This is also not mine. This is a friend of mine, and I've had it for like multiple years. It is pretty short. It doesn't have page numbers though. Oh yeah, it does. It's like 200 pages, and I think I've heard really good things about it. These are not my tabs, those are my friends. So I think, well, obviously I'm not going to get rid of it. It's not my book, but I think I'm going to hold on to it even longer just because I think I will enjoy it. I just got to do it. Fun fact, this book cart used to be the only place I had unread books. Times have changed. So next I have The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. This sounds really good, but I did try listening to the audiobook, and I just don't know if this writing is for me. I also tried to read his book, Harlem Shuffle, and it didn't speak to me, so I think I'm going to get rid of this, which is a bummer, because it sounds like a really interesting plot. It's about, like, a reform school in Florida in the 60s that's, like, very, very abusive and awful, and these boys growing up, and then later on, I think they all become, I don't know. But I think I'm going to say no to this one just because I don't know if I'm going to get to it because I never reach for it. Next is The Poet X. This is another one that belongs to my friend, and I mean, I want to read it. I just don't think that books in verse really do much for me. I mean, I probably could get through this really quick because it's basically poetry, but I don't know. I think I'm going to give it back to her. It's just not something that I think I will ever choose to pick up. And it's a shame because I do like Elizabeth Acevedo. She wrote a book called With the Fire on High, and I loved that, but it's not written in verse, so maybe that's just where the trouble is. The Passengers by John Mars. I definitely do want to read this. His books are so good, and especially the one, it was on one of my top thrillers of all time. So I definitely think this is one that I will like. I just have to pick it up. So I am going to keep this a little bit longer and see when I get to it. Animal Farm by George Orwell. I had a lovely idea that I was going to read a classic every month last year. It did not happen. Was that even last year? It might have been 2 years ago. It did not happen so much past like March, but this was one that I did pick up for that sort of goal I had. And I mean, it's a, very short book. I do think that I will enjoy this because I remember reading it in school when I was in school, and I liked it, but I don't really remember anything about it. So I'm gonna hang on to this. This would be a super quick read, like not even 150 pages. So if I just needed to like get through something, I think this is a good choice. So we're gonna hold on to it, and it's a cute little addition. Night. This I know I got used. I need to be in the right state of mind because this is a Holocaust memoir. It's one of the most famous ones. And I mean, it's a little book, but I think it will be a great one to read. I just need to be in the right mindset because it is gonna be like a tough book to read. Lisey's Story by Stephen King. This is one I have had this for probably 4 years. I don't know why I don't pick it up. I don't know why it has just not been something that's been on my radar super big. I know that a movie or miniseries version just came out, so I really should. It's also very publicly Stephen King's favorite book that he's written. So I don't know why I haven't read it yet, but one of these days, I am going to keep it. Just because I have a lot of Stephen King books, so at least it's good for that sort of collection. Maybe someday it will get to live on the shelf of books I've read with all his friends. Right, shelf number 2. These are books, a lot of these have been here a long time, so yikes. Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This was super popular a few years ago. A sequel just came out. I have this. It's super long. I don't think I'm ever going to read it, so she's going away. The Book Woman of Troublesome Creek. So this is very similar, I think, to The Giver of Stars by Jojo Moyes, which is a book that I absolutely loved. I had no idea about like the Pack Horse Library Project prior to reading that book. So I do think I will really like this. I've had it for a while, but I do plan on reading it eventually, so we're going to keep that. The next is Act Like You Got Some Sense by Jamie Foxx. I bought this because it was like on a good deal at a used bookstore, so I don't think I'm gonna read it. So I'm gonna get rid of it. Here comes Ruby again. Always gotta be in the shot. Next I have A Spark of Light by Jodi Picoult. I do want to read this. I think I will enjoy this, but this is a hardback, and honestly, I don't enjoy physically holding and reading hardcovers. Maybe it's because I travel so much, so it's just a lot easier for me to pack a paperback. So I think I'm going to get rid of this, and then if I see a used paperback version, I think I might get that instead, because I do want to read this. This is never going to get read if I only have a hardcover copy. The Girl with Stars in Her Eyes by Zio Axelrod. I do think this looks like a good book. I know it's set in Philly, which is always fun, but I've had this for like 3 years. It was like a book of the month add-on, and honestly, I just don't think I'm ever going to read it, so it's time to go. Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I think I bought this from Book Outlet, and again, I've had it for years and haven't read it, so I know people like it. I probably would like it, but it's just not something that I think I will find myself picking up. And that's what we're doing this video for. Saint X, again, I think I bought this on Book Outlet, and it's still here years later, so she's gonna also be going away. People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Why I haven't read this yet, I'm not sure. I think in the hype of beach read, which I loved, I bought this because I thought it would be just as good, and then everyone, kind of said it was not as good as beach read, so I just didn't prioritize it. And now it's been almost 2 years since I got this, and I haven't read it. So I'm gonna keep it on my shelf. I'm gonna get to it eventually. Fingers crossed. Sourdough by Robin Sloan. I think I bought this used, and it sounded weird and cool, but I don't think that it's gonna get read, so she's gonna get rid of. I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara. I actually ended up listening to the audiobook, so I don't know why I still have this. It was great. I just think I'm maybe not as into true crime as I thought I was, so this is gonna go. And we've got one called Cleveland Rocked. My husband definitely bought this for me a few years ago. The Cleveland Indians, now the Cleveland Guardians, but they are 100% my team, despite how much I'm probably gonna talk about the Phillies on here just because they're closer and I like them too. But they're my team, and 1995 Indians was a hell of a year, and so this book is all about that. And I definitely want to read this. It's just going to be, again, like baseball season's coming up, and at that point I know I will have a lot more just like passion to read it again. So we will read this. This one gets to stay. Okay, so I think we did pretty good. This was all full, and now it's pretty cleared out. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 13 books that I'm gonna get rid of. So I'm pretty proud of that, but that is just the beginning. Let's move out into the living room and start going through those. Okay, welcome to the living room. So as you can see, I have 4 bookshelves. They're not that big, so real estate is at a prime. Let's start unhauling. Empire of Pain. This is one that I got from the publisher, I believe, when it came out in paperback, but I honestly don't know if I'll ever read it. It looks really good, but it is just a really, really dense book, and I just don't know if this is going to be something that I ever get to, so I'm going to go ahead and be honest with myself and get rid of it. Don't Call It a Cult. I read like half of this, and then I had to return it to the library, and then I got a physical copy and then just like didn't pick it up again. This is about Nexium, the cult in New York, and like I was obsessed with the show The Vow and Seduced, both great miniseries kind of shows, but this book is one that I'm definitely going to finish, so keeping. Hex. I know I kind of impulsively bought this at a little indie bookstore because the owner said it was really good, but I've had it and I've looked at it and I've thought about picking it up and I haven't, so I do think I'm gonna get rid of it. Louise Penny, Still Life. I definitely do want to start this series. As you know, I'm not a big series reader, but these are kind of like detective series, so I think that you can kind of like go in and out without necessarily reading them all in order and not having to worry about forgetting what happened. So I'm gonna keep this. All right, next is Self-Care by Lee Stein. I got this at Powell's in Portland, and I haven't read it yet. It doesn't have great reviews on Goodreads, but it's exactly the kind of book that I like. It's like influencer culture. A lot of it is written in like the form of emails and text messages. So I think I'm gonna keep this because it does seem like it's just a quick, easy read for when I just need something quick and easy. This is one that I don't know exactly how. It's Office BFFs. It's definitely more of like a coffee table type book. I love The Office. I love Angela and Pam. Well, Angela and Jenna, I guess. But I definitely think I'll get to this. I don't necessarily know if this is like a book I would sit down and read straight through because it's a lot of pictures. It's a lot of I don't know. But we'll see. I am going to keep it for the moment. Surviving Dirty John. This was an arc from 2021 that I still haven't read, even though I loved the podcast, but I don't know if I'm gonna read it. Like I said, I think I thought I liked true crime a lot more than I actually do. I like it in podcast form. I don't know if book form I like it as much, so I think I am gonna get rid of this. Despite the fact that this was a great podcast, it's a really interesting story. If you haven't listened to it, you definitely should. It's just called Dirty John. So, gonna get rid of it, but highly recommend the podcast. Into Thin Air. I got this used. It's about that hiking trip to Mount Everest where a bunch of people died, and this was just a journalist who was on the trip. And I can't remember like all the details about it, but I know I'm gonna read this at some point, so I'm gonna hold on to it. I just need to be in the right mindset for nonfiction. Factory Girls, our little Irish friend. Ugh. I just got this, and like I just did that video where I read the first chapter, but I just don't know if this is ever going to be something I want to read after reading the first chapter. I think I'm going to get rid of it. Nobody's Magic. So this is, I think I've talked about before, about 3 different women with albinism that live in the deep south in like Louisiana, and just like their stories kind of intertwine. I'm definitely keeping this because it looks really good, and I definitely want to get to it at some point. The Dead Romantics, I talked about this on a video too. It's about like a ghost writer who falls in love with a ghost or something like that, but it sounds cute enough when I need a little romance. And The Troop, this book that's like really disgusting and gory. Again, I think this will be one that when I'm in the mood for something disgusting and gory, I will go for it. Queen of Thieves, I don't need to talk about that because I just did that try a chapter, and I definitely am keeping it. If we're being honest, this is an arc that hasn't come out yet, so we're keeping that. Before the Fall, I want to read this. This is not even mine, so we're keeping that. Taylor Jenkins Reid, Maybe in Another Life. I feel like I've done reading her romances. I like her historical fiction, but I think I've read like 2 of the romances, and they're just like fine. So I am going to get rid of that copy. Under the Rainbow, I will get to this. This is about that woman who goes to like a small town on like a task force of like gayness to make this like homophobic town not homophobic. It sounds great and funny. A Head Full of Ghosts, keeping that, by Paul Tremblay. It's like a horror. The Girls by Emma Cline. This is like a cult book, so keeping. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes, keeping that too. It is like a memoir about working in a crematorium, so that sounds cool. Last Night at the Telegraph Club. I do want to read that eventually. I hope I do. We'll see. If my next time I do this, some of these books are still here. We're going to go ahead and get rid of them. But The Love of My Life by Rosie Walsh. I will keep that for now. Eventually I'll read it. Take My Hand. This was a book of the month pick. It looks really good. I just don't know why I haven't picked it up. The Hacienda. Still want to read that. And Last Seen Alive by Claire Douglas. I love her books. She's written a bunch though, and I can't keep up. So I will get to this for sure, but I already have one on my TBR that's like an ARC copy that just came out and I didn't read. So gotta get to those first. I didn't do so great on that shelf. That's still pretty full, but whatever. The Sweet Spot by Amy Popple. I just got this from Aardvark Book Club, so I'm keeping. He's actually, well, Colleen Hoover, my fave. obviously that's not sticking around. Marlowe Banks Reimagined. I started reading this and I mean, it was good, but I don't remember. I got distracted by something else, so I'm going to get rid of it. And Retro, I feel really bad because these authors are delightful, and they sent me this cute autographed copy of the Ark, but unfortunately, I got about halfway through and like was bored to tears, so I'm going to get rid of it. Anatomy, a love story. I bought this one, like I pre-ordered this and I still haven't read it. I'm going to keep it though because someday I will. Sometimes I Lie. I bought this when I was on like an Alice Feeney kick because I just had read 2 of her books back to back and like thought she could do no wrong. And then Daisy Darker came out and I realized she can do wrong. So I don't think I'm going to probably read her backlist just because I'll read new ones when they come out. I haven't written her off as an author, but I do think that this would be a long shot for me to go ahead and pick up her backlist books. So I have 2 of those. I also have I Know Who You Are. The Last Anniversary by Leanne Moriarty. Honestly, exactly the same thing that happened with Alice Feeney. I read like 2 of her books that I love back to back and then read one that I didn't like and decided to kind of just like, I'll read her new books as they come out, but I'm not going to go through her whole backlist. So I have that one and I have What Alice Forgot. I probably am never going to read either of these, so off they go. Next Year in Havana. I just got this one for Christmas. And I plan to buddy read this with my best friend, so she's staying. Someday Maybe. This was a book of the month pick I've heard nothing but good things about. I'm keeping it. Love and Other Disasters. This is a year old. I still haven't read it, but I am going to keep it because I do think it sounds cute. And I know this author has another book coming out soon that sounds cute too. So I know this has a trans non-binary character, which I love that that's, being represented more. So I want to read this so I can, write a review and support the author and support that kind of book. Under the Banner of Heaven. I bought this when I was very interested in watching the TV show, and I was like, I gotta read the book first. And I do think that it would be an interesting book, but again, I just haven't been into nonfiction recently, even though I do need to read my nonfiction for the month. I think I will keep this for the moment and see how I am next time I do a video like this. Tell Me Everything. This is another book of the month pick from March of last year. Still haven't read it. And again, not as into true crime as I thought I was, so gonna get rid of it. You Are Not Alone. I love this author duo, Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. They are great. I've read every other book they've written except this one, but I'm gonna read this one, so we're holding on to that. These are a duology, Tiny Pretty Things and Shiny Broken Pieces. They are about like a ballet school and they're young adult. And while I do think that I would find them interesting because I used to be a ballet dancer, I don't think I'm going to read these just because I am not into young adult that much anymore. Occasionally, but generally no. So these will go on to someone else. True Biz. I know this is about a deaf school, and I've been suggesting this to book club for quite some time, and they haven't picked it, but I am still going to keep it just because I'm gonna read it. I don't care if they want to or not. Fight Like Hell. This is about like the history of unions and the labor laws in America. I need to read this. I bought this like the day it came out. It's autographed by the author, and I don't know why it's been sitting on my shelf for so long. I'm so interested in like the labor movement. I'm very like union positive, and my union for work is currently going through negotiations, so I feel like it's more important than ever to be educated on labor unions, the history of all of that stuff, and just like being active and proactive in negotiations. So I am definitely going to read this. She gets to stay. Things We Do in the Dark by Jennifer Hillier. This came out in June 2022. This was my book of the month pick then, still sitting on the shelf. I don't think this is one that I'll pick up if I'm looking for a thriller, so I'm going to get rid of it. I've got Finale, which is a book that is like conversations with Stephen Sondheim, who I'm a very big fan of, and he passed away this year, so I think I'm going to hold on to this. I did get this from the publisher, and I would like to review it. I know it's already out, but I'm definitely interested in reading more of it. And Mothered by Zoe Stage. I did a little reel about this. I am excited for it. This isn't out yet, so I'm excited to read it. Obviously, keeping it. we did pretty good on that shelf. It's very dusty, so I'm not going to show it to you, but we've got like half of a shelf cleared. And before, I think I also had books stacked on top here, so this actually made more progress than I thought originally. So we have like 1.5 more shelves to go. Let's get to it. I've been reading too much historical fiction lately, so I think I'm going to get rid of this and pass it on to someone I think will enjoy it more than I will. The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. I wanted to read this last Halloween time. It's a very spooky book, ghosts and stuff. So I think I'll hold on to it for one more spooky season and see if we read it then. The Donut Legion. This I've been putting off because it's not out yet. It comes out in March, so I'm probably going to get to it relatively soon. So keeping. Dolores Claiborne, Stephen King. Even if I wasn't going to read this, I would keep it because like it's such a cool cover and spine. So keeping. I am going to read it though. The Hookup Plan. I have no idea why I haven't read this yet because I loved the author's 2 other books. I even have them like right here where you can't see. They were great, so I'm keeping this, but I need to like actually get to it and read it because this is embarrassing. This is an arc of a book that's been out since October, so I don't know if I'm gonna get to it. We'll go ahead and get rid of it. This shelf is not doing great. Sinkable. This one's about the Titanic. I know that I started this, but I just like wasn't really in the right mindset. But maybe I will read it next actually, because 2 nights from now I'm going to see the movie again, which is being re-released for the the 25th anniversary. Oh, that makes me feel old. So maybe I'll get back into that and read it, because we all had a Titanic phase and mine's still going, so keeping. Unmasked, yet another true crime. Probably never going to read. As much as I think this stuff is interesting, I think I prefer it on my television. These Impossible Things. I'm going to get to this. Whoops. I will get to this. It's just not happened yet. Winter Street, I bought this to save for next Christmas. Sizzle Reel, another one that's upcoming that I just haven't gotten to yet because it's not out yet or even close to. The Last Party. I don't think I'm going to read this, so I'm going to get rid of it. A Very Typical Family. Another one that I think I would like, but I just don't think it's going to be one that I reach for. So I'm going to get rid of that as well. Flying Blind. This is about the 737 MAX and all of the Boeing mishaps that have happened recently. So I'm going to hang on to this because I'm going to read it eventually. But I feel like now it's far enough removed from when the 737 MAXs were grounded and the disasters were happening that I actually can read this and feel okay about it, because I do have to fly and work on 737s, so, and the MAX, so. None of this would have happened if Prince were alive. I talked about that recently. Still interested in reading it. The Forever Witness, I definitely did that in a haul too. This one's about DNA testing, and it's... I keep talking about how true crime is not necessarily my speed, so I guess I'm gonna get rid of it. Election, she's staying. Someone Else's Life, staying. Missing Clarissa, staying. I'll Take Everything You Have, staying. The Great Circle, I've had this forever, and it's paperback, and I think I also have an ebook of it. Oh, and it's a super floppy one. I have no excuse. This has got to get read in the next couple months. And The Mutual Friend, I don't know why I've had this for so long. Oy, it's like 450 pages. It's hardcover. As much as I think it's a beautiful, like, looking book, I think if I do read this, it will be if I find a paperback copy somewhere, so I think I'm going to get rid of it. The Cult of We, this is one about WeWork. I do think I want to listen to this on audio because it's one that I really like. I actually started it on audio, but I don't think that I'm going to read the actual book just because, like, it's so big, and I feel like just nonfiction a lot of times for books that are like this chonky, I need to hear them and not read them with my eyes. 1 Month of You. This one just went on sale, but this is an arc. I don't know what it's about at all, but I'm gonna keep it for the moment. I mean, When Franny Stands Up, I've had this since forever. And I know it's like kind of like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, but it's like got magic involved or something. So I don't think I'm going to read it. So we're going to get rid of it. I mean, I think we did pretty good. I'm going to do a quick count of how many books I got rid of so we can all know. And I'm very excited to have cleared some space on my shelf so I can get new books. Okay, so final total is 29 books that I am getting rid of. I feel pretty good about that. Like I said, I don't keep a ton of books that I haven't read just because my house is small. I don't have a ton of space. I try to keep it just a little tighter. I just found more books, but I know all of those I'm gonna read really quick. But let's really quickly, I'll just tell them to you. Looking for Jane, just saw in a video. The Secret of Heartwood Hall, The Ingenue, The House of Eve, The Undocumented Americans, The Angel Maker, and The Girls Who Disappeared, which is by that author Claire Douglas that I was referring to before, that has so many books out. Those I'm all gonna read. They're currently on my like read these soon shelf, so which is why I didn't see them at first. But nevertheless, I'm still proud of my 29 books that I'm getting rid of. I'm passing on to someone else. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for watching me clear out my bookshelves, which is really boring when you're the one doing it, but when you're watching someone else, I think it's a little more fun. So I'm so happy that you watched this, and I really appreciate you supporting my channel. If you did like this, I would love it if you'd give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!